The Red Necklace, Disc 5. On the first floor was the apartment he was looking for. Taking a deep breath, he knocked on the door. It was opened by Milkai. "This is for Citizen Kaliowski," said Jan.
"He is not in,"
said Milkai, moving as if to close the door. "Will you at least take the basket?" Jan pulled back the cloth to reveal a round cheese and a bottle of red wine. Milkai grabbed the basket.
My master doesn't like cheese."
Jan shrugged and reached to take back the gift. With his outstretched palm, Milkai pushed him so hard that he landed with a thud on the opposite wall, with the door slammed firmly in his face. 10 minutes was what Tetu had reckoned before the wine and cheese worked their magic, and Milkai would be fast asleep. Jan gave it 15 to make sure, before gently trying the door. To his relief, it opened easily, and he found himself in the dark, empty hall. There was just enough light for him to make his way cautiously into the salon. It was an enormous room, and furnished on a grand scale. There was no sign of Milkai, just the basket on the side table. The bottle of wine was missing, but the cheese was untouched. This was not a good sign. It would take both to knock him out completely. Jan wondered why he could hear the beating of a drum. Then he realized it was his own heart. He spun round, fearing to see Milkai in the long shadows, but the room was empty. Guardedly, he went through the interconnecting doors to the next salon. Every sound echoed cannonball loud in his head. Something was very wrong. Jan walked to the door of the third salon. It was ajar. He pushed it open, to be greeted by a blast of cold air. Hearing voices, he stopped and listened intently. "Velvet and violence, brocade and blood, damask and death." There were several voices, none of them Milkai's. The words came in a high moan, sharp and urgent to his ear, as if some bizarre game was being played. But by whom? "Fur and fury, calico and corpses." Jan felt every sense in him alert as he pushed the door further open. The room was in total darkness. He felt his breath coming fast, as if he'd been running to get here. Calm down, he said to himself. He lit a candle, and immediately the voices stopped. The room was a workshop with a bench and a long table. In the half-light, he could see shelves filled with glass jars. What was inside them he couldn't make out. Books were piled high, and there were burners, jars, and surgical instruments on the workbench. He heard something rustle and spun round, expecting to see Milkai behind him. There was nobody there. He was slowly moving the candle to look more closely at what was in the glass jars when he heard the whispering voices say, "Calico and corpses." Jan stopped, transfixed. For ranged along the back wall of the chamber stood 6 automata, their eyes shut, only their ruby wax mouths moving. The thing Jan despised in others he now saw clearly in himself. Fear had wrapped itself around his heart. If he were to let it get the better of him, he would be dead. That much his reason knew. The battle inside him was won when he saw the dull threads of light coming from the automata, and he realized with a shudder that someone had already pulled them tight as violin strings. Tight enough to keep the 6 automata whispering all night long. Jan set to work to loosen the threads of light, and as he did so, he heard the automata calling to him with their songs of sorrow. He watched, almost hypnotized, as 6 pairs of glass eyes opened and stared at him. Now he noticed that they all wore identical red necklaces. The hairs on the back of his neck tingled, and in that moment everything slowed down, as if time itself were yawning.
"You think I'd fall for such a cheap trick?"
said a voice from behind him. Milk-Eye was standing in the doorway, a pistol in his hand.
I've waited a long time for this.
Jan was paralyzed by the knowledge of what was coming next. The inevitability of it. He had the insane desire to burst out laughing, for this moment was what he had been dreading. Here it was, in all its glory, and it seemed almost nothing compared to the long, endless terror of waiting.